Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, ArcGIS View Maps. I'm your host, Falan Santos, Operations Manager here at TBSL. This morning, I'm joined by our GIS Manager, Antonio Cano, who will be presenting key concepts and information on ArcGIS View Maps, along with our GIS technician, Kevin Amaya, who will be driving the demos, both of whom will introduce themselves respectively. We're actually excited to have you here with us today. This is our first webinar for 2022. And just for a quick audience introductory, we have persons from various industries. So, while preparing for this webinar, we looked at the registrations coming in and, it confirmed to us that this was the right webinar to do, the first one to do, as various industries have a need for ArcGIS field maps. So we saw persons registering from the agriculture industry, the utilities, health, local government, natural resources and environment, infrastructure, statistics. So we want to give all of you a warm welcome for taking, 1 or so out of your time this morning to sit with us and learn more about ArcGIS field maps. So in this webinar, Antonio and Kevin will give you an overview and demo as well of how ArcGIS field maps can help you to streamline your workflows, how your field workforce can be empowered, how they could have data accessible, easily transmittable to the office personnel, and how it could be very transparent and accurate. So to start this off, I will move just for us to have a better understanding of who our audience is. I will launch the first poll question, and it's just a general question. Have you heard about or used ArcGIS field maps prior to this webinar? Okay, I see some responses coming in. So feel free to just let us know, because it helps guide the conversation and also help us to prepare for follow-up throughout the year with ArcGIS field maps. Okay, so far, for majority of you, this is your first time learning about ArcGIS field maps, and some of you had some prior knowledge. Less of you have actually used it. So we're thankful for this feedback, because while preparing for this webinar, we had in mind for non-users, GIS users and ArcGIS users. So we have a bit of information for everyone. And the ones who are currently using it, well, we had 100% answered, is to support all of the field data collection. So thanks for sharing that information with us. So I'll end the poll now. Okay, so at this point, I'll hand it over to Antonio to begin the presentation.
Good morning once again. My name is Antonio Cano. I'm the GIS manager here at Total Business Solutions Limited. I will be leading the presentation this morning, but I will also have support from our GIS technician, Kevin Amaya. If Kevin would like to introduce himself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kevin Amaya. I am the GIS technician here at TBSL, and I will be covering the technical demos during this webinar.
To get us started, we would like to play a short video on ArcGIS field maps that highlights some of the key capabilities available in this application. Great. I hope you enjoyed that short little video. Again, we are excited to have you join us for this webinar, where we will present ArcGIS field maps, an all-in-one app for fieldwork. It is a jam-packed webinar. So If you have any questions along the way, feel free to place them in the chat. We will make time at the end for a designated question and answer segment, but we'll be trying to cover all the questions that have been posed here. So to get us started, it is important to first understand that the ArcGIS technology is web-based GIS. This means that your mapping capabilities and services are made available through a portal environment, whether that is ArcGIS Online, Esri's SaaS offering, or ArcGIS Enterprise, where organizations can build the ArcGIS technology on their own infrastructure. WebGIS allows users to connect to their GIS content, including data, maps, and apps virtually from any device, anywhere. Centralizing this content is powerful and allows for collaboration from a variety of types of users, including GIS power users using ArcGIS Desktop and ArcGIS Pro, field workers using one of the many ArcGIS field apps, office workers using the ArcGIS for Office productivity apps, marketing managers sharing content through apps for the community, or developers building custom applications. The ArcGIS apps ecosystem is large and vast and supports workflows for members across an organization. To better understand and appreciate the role that ArcGIS field apps play, let's take a brief look at the field operations workflow. Typically, a service request may come into your organization, perhaps for a new connection or to investigate an incident. In ArcGIS, web apps like GeoForms or Survey123 can be used to process those requests. Once those requests have been received, there is a need to coordinate field efforts. In ArcGIS, ArcGIS Workforce can be used to create assignments and manage the deployment of field workers. Field workers can utilize ArcGIS Navigator, a premium app that provides turn-by-turn directions to the site of the service request or incident investigation. Once on site, data capture apps such as field maps or Survey123 can be deployed to collect new data or make edits to existing data. Finally, supervisors can monitor the progress of field data collection in real time even using apps such as ArcGIS dashboards. There are a variety of ArcGIS field applications. If we focus on those intended specifically for field data capture, there are three main apps: ArcGIS Field Maps, which we will discuss more extensively, ArcGIS Survey123, which is a form-based data collection app, and ArcGIS Quick Capture, which is intended for rapid data collection with a big button interface. These apps are designed for use on smartphones and tablets and can be found and downloaded from your device's app store. They provide the functionality to navigate maps, collect, and report data. ArcGIS Field Maps is the latest in the lineage of the ArcGIS field applications. For those familiar with the ArcGIS technology, you may have in the past learned about or used apps such as ArcGIS Explorer, ArcGIS Collector, or ArcGIS Tracker. Field Maps has been designed to consolidate the capability of these three apps with even more advanced tools, really providing the end user with a robust all-in-one app that can facilitate map viewing, creation of markups and notes on maps, data collection, asset inspection, and with ArcGIS Tracker licensing, a premium capability, support location tracking of field workers. By consolidating these various apps, ArcGIS Field Maps becomes just one app to deploy and learn. As a result, your field data efforts can be accomplished from one app, requiring one sign-in. Additionally, if you are working constantly offline, you also eliminate duplication of offline content stored on your device. Less downloads, less apps, and a consistent workflow to apply across all your field data collection activities. ArcGIS Field Maps is supported in ArcGIS Online and ArcGIS Enterprise versions 10.8.1 and above. There is a web application component that can be accessed through a web browser, either on desktop, tablets, or phones. Note, while most web browsers would work, the more established browsers such as Chrome, Firefox, Microsoft Edge, and Safari would yield better performance. Secondly, there is a mobile app that is downloadable on either Android or iOS. Android at version 8.0 or above, or iOS at 13.5 or later. Additionally, to utilize the ArcGIS Field Maps application, You need to be a named user either in ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise. To collect or make edits to data, your named user needs to be either a field worker, creator, or GIS professional user type. However, just viewing the web maps can be done with any of the user types. ArcGIS Field Maps works with web maps to support data collection. Generally, the process to follow involves authoring and sharing web layers to be used in data collection. These web layers are then added to web maps, and the web maps are further configured and shared to field operators. Further configuration and access can be defined in the ArcGIS Field Maps web application prior to them being accessed in the ArcGIS Field Maps mobile application. At the base of your operations, you would begin preparing a web layer by first creating and defining the web layer properties. In ArcGIS, you can select and modify a template, and there are various templates of data structures to choose from, available across multiple industries, such as natural resources, utilities, transportation, and more. You can also start from scratch in ArcGIS Online or Enterprise, or create and share a layer from ArcGIS Pro. Some considerations to keep in mind when starting from scratch include defining the geometry of the data you want to collect. ArcGIS Field Maps supports data collection using points, lines, and polygons, or even tables. You would also want to define attributes or the non-spatial data and their corresponding data types. For instance, if we are doing building inspections, we may require a text field to enter the building name or usage. We may require a date field to note the date of establishment, or an integer to note the height of the building. As opposed to traditional methods of data collection that rely heavily on paper workflows, ArcGIS Field Maps can consolidate both your location and non-spatial data needs into one. Further, you may want to select an appropriate spatial reference, create attribute domains to help field workers select from a predefined listing of options, thus improving consistency in data input efforts and reducing human error in transcription. And if you're required to attach media such as photos, videos, or even documents, you can enable attachments to your web layer. An important note, if you require your field worker to make changes, edits, or collect new data, then you must enable editing on the data layer. You would also want to share the data layer to your field workers, either via a specialized group or sharing to an organization. If your field workflows require working disconnected from the internet, then you will also want to enable Think. Once your data layer has been created, it can easily be added to a web map in Map Viewer or Map Viewer Classic. And finalizing your web map may include items such as choosing an appropriate default base map, adding data layers, including those for reference and others for editing, as well making symbology definitions to improve the visualization of the map and its content for your field workers. The ArcGIS Field Maps web app is designed for the GIS users that need to prepare and deploy maps to the field. It brings together the common capabilities of working with web maps into one experience. This serves as a viable alternative to developing the content directly in the web map and can work hand in hand with your pre-existing web maps. The ArcGIS Field Maps web app also allows users to configure map content and configure map and app settings. ArcGIS Field Maps web app also allows users to prepare for and manage the offline experience and facilitate sharing and deployment of maps. So I will now hand it over to my colleague, Kevin, who will demonstrate the process of preparing data and maps for data collection with ArcGIS Field Maps.
So in order to configure our Field Maps application, we need to prepare our web map. And to prepare our web map, we need to create our layer as well. We would need to have our layer available to serve as the basis for this web map. So here you are looking at the homepage for ArcGIS Online. And this is where we store any ArcGIS content once we upload it online. I am in the contents page, and if there are any items online, then they would show here. So we want to create a new layer. We would do this by clicking on new item on the upper left. From here, we can choose to add an existing layer from our device or from the cloud, or we can create a layer from scratch. We choose to create a blank layer. When we click on next, and from here we can title our layer. So for the purposes of this webinar, we are creating a field maps application that would then be deployed in the field for use in collecting information on potholes. So it would be used in the roads, and then users would use it on potholes that they find, and they would collect the information you want them to collect. So we have our layer here, and we give it a relevant name. So let's call it potholes. And it's a point layer because it's more adapted to our purposes here, as opposed to a line layer or polygon layer. We just want a point wherever it is that we find potholes. We'll leave everything else as default, and then we can click on next. So it tells us that a layer like this exists. So of course we can quickly rename our item so that it doesn't give us that error. From here, from our metadata details, we can also choose which folder we want to save it in. And we can add a tag on summary. Let us save. Now it's creating the feature layer. Once we have created this layer, we can build upon our layer further. Once it's done, we are redirected to the details page for our new layer. From here, we can finish setting up this layer. We can add more information to the metadata. We can configure different settings, and we can add fields as well. So to add our fields, we would go to the data, to the data tab. And here we see our table. So our current fields, they would store the ID of records, as well as allow for the collection of photos and files out in the field. We would like to add some more fields so that more information can be collected on our focus, which is potholes. So we are in the table view. To add new fields, we would move to our fields view. And from here, we can add new fields. So we want to collect information on the depth of a pothole. So we add depth as the field name and depth as the display name. So the field name and display name can be different, and then users would see the display name once they are working with the layer. Or type would be a string because it would contain characters of different types. So string is more apt for this purpose. Then we add this new field. We also want our users to be able to record the severity of a pothole they encounter. So we add another field. So our next field, let's call it severity. So severity is the field name and the display name. That will also be a string type. So we have created our fields. We want our users to be able to select from a list of preset options whenever they are entering data. So instead of them entering it manually, they just click on the options available, and then they enter the data like that. To do this, we would have to enter our fields and details page by clicking on a field. And here we can see different details about the field that we have created. We'll be creating what is called a domain list. And this list is what would contain the different options. So we create this list. This is our depth field. We want to add 3 options. So less than 25 millimeters. That's the label. And then our code can be something like this can be, the code can be minus 25 millimeters. So your users would be seeing the label. Your users would be seeing the label, and then the code is there for storage purposes as well. Okay, so our next option can be something like between 25 millimeters and 50 millimeters. And our code can be something like 25 to 50. And then our last field can be greater than 50 millimeters. Our code can be plus 50 millimeters. We have our three options. Now we can save. Next, we move to our severity field. We also want to add a domain list here. So we click on create list. We add something simple like low, it's a low severity. Medium for medium severity. And high for high severity. So those would be the options our users will be able to see once they're out in the field. So let's save. And we have a basic layer that can serve as the basis for our field map application. So now we have to create our web map. To open this layer in a web map, we can move to the overview tab. And then from here, we can open in our map viewer. So we click on open in map viewer classic, or open in map viewer, which is the newer version. In this case, we're using map viewer classic. And here we can see our map, and we are prompted to select a symbology as well. So we want our records to be symbolized by severity. We can change it here to severity. And then we can edit the symbology to different colors. So in this case, we'll leave the colors as is, but if we wanted to change the colors, we would click on a color here, and then we can choose a different color. We'll click OK, and done. And then we can zoom to our area of focus, which is Belize. Of course, if you are operating in a specific community, you might want to zoom into that specific community. In our case, it's Belmopan. So we can zoom in further into Belmopan. This will be our web map. Once we are satisfied with our current web map, we can choose to save. So we save our web map. We add our working title. We can add our tags and summary, and then we can save our map. So now we have a map. We are able to configure this web map in our Field Maps online application. So we go to our content page. Then from our content page, we can open our app launcher. And via this app launcher, we can access the different applications that are offered by ArcGIS Online. In this case, we are working with field maps, so we would click on field maps. So now we have been redirected to the homepage of field maps. Here we can see the maps that have been created. This is our newest map. From here, we can click on this map so that we can access it here. It opens its overview page, and from here, we can also edit its details further if we wish to. Note that the offline status is currently disabled and the item is not currently shared. So then we can move to our content tab. From our content tab, we can click on the layer, and this opens our form builder. So this is our form builder, and we can choose different form elements on the right. We scroll down, we'll see the fields that we added to our map, to our layer. We will add the 2 fields. So we have the fields here. And then, if you notice, we didn't add a field for date or time, but that may be something that we would want our users to input as well. We want to know at what date and time they collected the information. So we can add it from the form elements. We can drag a date and time element into the form and drop it there. So now this updates the layer itself, and there will be a new date time field in our layer. So we can add an appropriate display name and edit the field name as well. So we have our basic form. We can edit the title. So we can add a sort of dynamic title. In this case, let's say our users, when they open a record, they can see the severity of that record in the title. So we have our basic form here, and we can save. So it is preparing our form, it's done. We can move on to the templates tab. So in the event that we want our users to select a specific category or option when they add a new point, we can do so. So in this case, when they add a new point, they would see this, they would see new feature. However, we want them to be able to select the severity as when they add the point. We would need to edit that from the web map itself. So we return to the web map, and we have already configured our symbology for severity. We can click on edit, and then we click on manage. And from here, we can save the changes. And this saves it to the layer so that when we reload this page, we will see this as the template. So this is what users will see once they add the data. From here, we can reorder our categories. So we want low to be at the bottom. And now we have reordered it to go high, medium, low. Now we can save. All right, so we have our form now, and we can move on to the next aspects of the configuration. We move on to the offline tab, and we want to enable offline. However, we need to set up our layer so that it can be used offline. So we access our layer from our contents page. And then we go to the settings of our layer. We scroll down, and in the feature layer settings, we can enable sync, which is required for offline use and collaboration. This will allow records to be uploaded once you reconnect, and then other users can download it as well and sync the data that has been collected. So we can return to our to the field maps page, and we can enable sync. Once the sync is enabled, we can turn on offline mode. So this means that we will be able to carry our application offline without the need for Wi-Fi or internet access. We can leave everything as is, move on to the app settings. Everything can be left as default here as well. We move to the sharing tab, save changes if necessary. And then we can set the sharing level. So if you want all the members of your organization to access this application, you can set it to an organizational level. If you want anyone to access this application, you can set it to everyone or public. If you want only members of a specific working group to access this field application on their device, then you can edit the group sharing and then select the group where you have added all the users you will be working with. And then you can click OK and save. You will be prompted to update the sharing level of the layer as well. And you can do so by updating. And here we have the direct link for the field map so that it can be open on a device, and the QR code as well. However, if a user has already been added to a group that the map is shared to, once they access field maps, then they will be able to see the application on their device as well. So that's it for the creation and configuration of a field map application. At this point, I pass it back to Antonio.
Thank you, Kevin. So now that we have created and prepared content for use in ArcGIS field maps, we will now explore the basic workflows for data collection with ArcGIS field maps. The ArcGIS field maps mobile application brings together many key capabilities. These include map viewing, creating markups on maps. It also includes increasing the accuracy of data collection with options to connect to external GPS receivers, smart forms that provide added functionality for editing inspections, and the ability to view, record, and share location tracks with the ArcGIS Tracker License extension. Note again that once a web map has been created for the purpose of data collection, the ArcGIS portal then supports field workers accessing these maps through mobile devices such as smartphones and tablets. Using the ArcGIS Field Maps web application, you can create offline map areas for use by your field workers. This process would involve defining your offline area of interest, packaging that area, sharing the area, and downloading the packaged area onto a mobile device for use offline. Alternatively, offline areas can be generated directly on the mobile device prior to disconnecting from internet service. Similarly, on the mobile device, the offline area of interest would be defined, then packaged and downloaded for subsequent use offline. Once offline, data capture is stored on the mobile device until it can be synced via an internet connection. Conversely, if changes are made to a web map or its corresponding layers, or to the field map settings, those changes can be synced to the map on the mobile device once a connection has been reestablished. I'll now hand it back over to Kevin, who will show us another demonstration using a disconnected workflow.
So here I have my phone screen. And in this mobile device, I have field maps installed as well as other ArcGIS applications. So from here, I can access field maps, and I will be able to see the map that I have created. Here you can see the new map. Potholes monitoring is the name of the new map that we created. So we can access it. And we are in Belmopan. However, if we take it offline, we would need to download the area where we plan to work so that users without internet access can still view the map offline. So to do that, we would need to add an offline area. We click on the three dots beside the map. Then we can click on add offline area. From there, the user can zoom to the location where they will be working at, or the area they have been assigned to. They can zoom to that area. Let's say it's these 3 neighborhoods here. They have to inspect the roads along these neighborhoods to record any potholes here. So once they have zoomed into this area, they can download the area and it will start to download. So depending on the size of the area that you are working on, then the file size would be much larger and it would take a while longer. So in the meanwhile, we can look at another map that I have already downloaded an offline area to and collected some points on as well. So here it's a larger portion, and this portion, the file size is 82 megabytes. Once I access it, we can see the area that I had downloaded to this device. So as you can see, we don't see the rest of the base map. This is the offline area. This is what we will have access to once we are offline. So let's return to our previous map. It has now downloaded the area. We can access it and we have our base map here. So once we go out in the field and we are disconnected from the internet, we would still be able to see this portion. Of course, once you move on to another area, then you would need to reconnect and record and download that area of the base map as well. So that's how you go about downloading the offline area and preparing it for offline use. I will now share a screen recording showing the workflow for collecting this data once you are out in the field. So once I'm out in the field, I would access the field map application. And I am in the map. I move to my area where I am, and there I add the point. From here, I can select the severity. Then I can enter the information such as the depth. And also, I can add the date and time that the information is collected. Then I take a photo for reference. And once I have that photo, I can click OK. And then I accept. I click the check mark in the upper right. And our records will be stored to our device. So we are offline. Our records are on our device. Once we reconnect to the internet, then our map will sync and the data will be uploaded to ArcGIS Online. That's it for this workflow, and I pass it back to Antonio.
Thank you, Kevin. We will now take a look at how ArcGIS Online can empower us to monitor our field operations. So we have collected and edited data in the field. However, one of the values of working within the ArcGIS technology is that your data is centralized. As a result, your data becomes immediately available in your portal, either ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise, and can be further accessed by other members in your organization that have privileges to the data. In the scheme of the field operations workflow, apps such as ArcGIS dashboards can be deployed to monitor field operations for real-time operational awareness and for monitoring and evaluation. We have ArcGIS dashboards is a web application itself that can be deployed from ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise to monitor assets, events, or activities for at-a-glance decision-making. It is a configurable user experience, so no programming is required to create a dashboard. And when used in combination with any of the ArcGIS field apps, can enable you to have a real-time view of your data. As a quick note, web applications in ArcGIS integrate web maps or web scenes to create a unique map viewing experience. As you may recall from an earlier discussion, web maps are simply interactive representations of your data. So your data layers feed into the web map or the web scene, and the web map or scene feeds into a web application such as ArcGIS dashboards. As a result, configuring a dashboard with data collected from ArcGIS field maps can be quite simple and easy to do, as you already have a web map with data that just needs to be added to the ArcGIS dashboards application. Once added, elements in the dashboard are configurable. You can enable actions amongst elements to provide more interactivity and promote exploration of the data, perhaps revealing information that is not immediately visible. So let us take a look at another workflow for field data inspections. Using a pre-created infrastructure inspections map, we will demo inspections on building conditions following a disaster event. Tracking has been enabled on this web map to demonstrate this capability as well. So we have launched our field maps application on our mobile device and opened our infrastructure inspections web map that has been prepared in a similar fashion to that of the potholes monitoring web map shown in the previous examples. This web map contains a buildings layer with a related table suited for inspections. We will be editing the table to update the status of the building condition. Note that as we open the app, we were prompted with the location tracking on. This has been required for this map. You can see our movement along the map, which is shown using the GPS or our device as we move towards our nearest building. With location tracking enabled, we can also see our last known location and previous location tracks. So as we arrive to the nearest building to begin our inspections, our objective will be to make edits to already existing data. We will select a building and we'll do a simple update on the building condition in the building inspections table as we inspect it. This includes updating the inspection status, the inspection date, the building condition, adding comments, and entering the inspector's name. Note that the options for date, building condition, comments, and name only become available after we selected the value yes for inspection status. This is because the inspection status had been set previously as a precondition to all other questions. As we complete this form with the necessary information, we will also be adding a photo of the building as an attachment. In this case, since we are connected to the internet, our updates are synced in real time back to ArcGIS Online once we have submitted. So we will open up ArcGIS Online, and we have preloaded here our infrastructure inspections web map. As we can see at the bottom of our screen, and we can zoom in further, because we have location enabled, or location tracking enabled, we can see our tracks. We can see as well our last known location. And if we click on the building that we edited, the building is tied to our related inspections table. However, it's also been configured in this case to show the information collected from the inspections table. So that includes the status of the inspection, the date of inspection, a building condition grade, the inspector's name, as well as comments that have been made. If we look at the related record specifically, we can also open up and view any attachments that have been made in this inspection activity. As mentioned, this is a web map. And so this web map that contains this data layer that we've been working with can be easily shared to an application using the share option here and to create a web app. There are various web application templates that can be used to start your creation process, and some of them may be suited for simply displaying of data. There are configurable apps. There are apps that you may want to build further using Web App Builder. And you can also create ArcGIS dashboards. So dashboards, again, as we've been mentioning, is an excellent application designed for the monitoring of your data. So at this point, I will pass it back to Kevin, who will actually take us through the process of visualizing our data in ArcGIS dashboards. So Kevin?
All right, I should sound much better now, hopefully. So we want to visualize our data that we have collected out in the field. And in this instance, let's say we have decided to use the dashboards application. So again, we go to our app launcher. And from here, we can open dashboards. So we are directed to the dashboards page. This would show any dashboards we have created as well as any shared dashboard. And then we can choose to create a dashboard. So we add a title. Then we can add our tags and summary as well. And we create our dashboard. And we are in the design page of our dashboard application as well. I made a slight mistake. Anyway, yeah. So from here, we can start adding our elements. We want to add our map first. So in this case, I will add a map, the map that we already collected data on. So I can move to shared maps. And here is the map, a map here that already has some data. I select this map and it opens the settings for this map. And here we can choose to keep the default extent to include our legend, as well as other settings such as search, add zoom in and out buttons, and so on. Done. So now our map is added. And we can see the records that we have collected as well. So this is a visualization tool. And to that extent, we can add different elements that would allow us to visualize our data better. So we see other types of elements. So we can add a legend, serial charts, indicators, lists, and so on. Let's add a list. And this list will be based on our layer. And here we have our different records. From our list, we can configure what we want to see. So let's say we want to see the date, time that the information was collected, as well as the depth when it was collected. We can do that. And then we can add a title. So we have our list. We can resize. And then we can add another element, say maybe a serial chart, to visualize the number by, in this case, maybe depth again. So that's showing us the number of potholes and in each category. Of course, we can then title our categories, our value axis, and title as well. We can change the color of our bars. We're going into the series tab to add a bit more customization. Then we can move it elsewhere where we think it's more appropriate. Of course, we can add more elements to it, and right now we'll take it to a more complete dashboard was created using this data. So here we are seeing a completed dashboard with different elements. We have our header here. We have our map in the center. And then we have a list here. We have a chart to show the severity level for different records. And then here we have what's called a category selector. So here we can choose to filter our records by our different categories. If I click on a button, then it selects, it shows the records collected for in that category. We have also configured our list to perform some actions on the map. So when you click a record, it would pan the map and flash as well and show the pop-up showing some information for this record. So we can choose to display our information in a pop-up, or we can add a details widget which shows the information in that pop-up as well. We have configured our information to show like this. Pothole depth of this particular record is between 25 and 50, and the severity is medium. So that's it for the visualization aspect of field maps. And at this point, I pass it back to Antonio.
Okay, Kevin. So I know we are running close up to the hour here. There are a few resources that I think would be valuable as well for you to explore to continue your learning and understanding for this product, ArcGIS field maps. These include things such as the ArcGIS field maps resource page, which really contains quite a lot of content, guides, blogs, videos as well that pertain specifically to ArcGIS field maps. So this is a great resource to have. For those of you who are connected to your organizations, or even if you have a public account, a free public account, you can access content here to begin learning some of this technology. If you go to the Esri Academy and go into the course catalog, we can look to see, and I've already preloaded a search for ArcGIS field maps. So these include things, you can find videos, documents, learning plans, courses as well that pertain to field maps and associated content. From the Learn ArcGIS site, which is another learning resource from Esri, you can further explore and learn about products or learn capabilities. So if we're interested in, again, ArcGIS field maps, perhaps we can specify that product specifically and look to find what types of lessons and content are available for that product. And again, these are completely free and you're able to access and use. I will be sharing with you some videos such as this one, Getting to Know ArcGIS Field Maps, which there's a very nice series of videos made by Esri that showcases the full capabilities of the ArcGIS Field Maps product. And as well, blogs and documentation for those familiar users to ArcGIS Collector or Explorer or Tracker as to how to go about migrating to ArcGIS Field Maps. So we will be sharing those resources in chat as well as in a follow-up communication. Additionally, let me return back to the slide here. But additionally, we would welcome your feedback through this evaluation form. So there's an evaluation link on the slide, but of course you can use your devices if available to scan that link, and I think we'll be pasting that in the chat as well too. At this point, I would also like to open it up to any questions that you may have, and we'll do our best to answer those here. So again, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this presentation, and we'll be happy to address the questions you have posted.
Thank you, Antonio. In the chat so far, we have one question. I'm starting to work with the 10.2.1 version. Is it possible to upgrade? What is the process that needs to be done? I have been informed that it is difficult due to ArcFM.
Right. So in ArcGIS Enterprise, you do need to have a version 10.8.1. I'll put a bit of an asterisk on this. You can use it in ArcGIS Enterprise from 10.6 and above. However, not all the capabilities would be available to you. If you would want some further documentation on specifically those requirements, we can share that with you. In terms of upgrading, well, that's a process that would be higher, well, that would, of course, consider the limitations that you've indicated. I believe with ArcFM that advancements in ArcFM do allow for upgrading of the enterprise, but I cannot speak directly right now to what version would be best suited or most suited for ArcFM. But there is also some other considerations that you may need to make before doing that upgrade or to your systems, including working with your IT administrators to make that a possibility. But we can definitely connect with you and give you any further guidance on that process.
Thank you, Antonio. Any other questions at this time?
I do see a question about pricing here.
Okay, he had to leave this meeting and he sent me a private message, so we'll follow up with him afterwards as well.
How to automate data from collector to ArcGIS. So if you have been using web maps in collector, the process of moving that data into ArcGIS field maps is pretty much seamless. Field maps is designed already to access and open your web maps that have been using collector. And the data, again, because you're using a WebGIS or a portal-based system, the data that you have there is centralized to that portal. So you do have access to it already through a variety of applications, but that includes ArcGIS field maps. So you don't need to really do much changes, but there is, like I said, there is a migration guide. When field maps was released, it was released with a similar interface as to the new ArcGIS collector. So if you have been using the new version of ArcGIS collector, the interfaces were designed very similarly, so as to kind of promote ease in transition as well. But certainly we can share resources as well that deal with migration to ArcGIS field maps. So does field map support relation tables like one-to-many? It does support related tables. Of course, you would typically be starting with your related tables in technology like desktop, but once they're there in ArcGIS Online, actually the buildings inspections demo was working with a related table. So your buildings layer was actually related to an inspections table. That was more of a one-to-one relationship. However, yes, it can support one-to-many relationships. Is there a limited amount of users that can access or use the app within a particular data set or web map? The limit is more geared towards the amount of users that you have available within your organization to access the content. So it all depends on the amount of users. When your organization, that would be field workers or above, if they're going to be making edits. But the content can be accessed by various users at the same time. If you're working with a large amount of users, there are some best practices that you would want to follow. This includes things such as, of course, working perhaps in a disconnected setting whereby you have downloaded specific areas for specific users, just to avoid the chance of duplication of efforts within the same area. And others as well, but that's the one that comes immediately to mind. But the limitation is more on the quantity of users that you have at the field worker editor level that would be accessing the content. One last set of poll questions. So I'll launch those and you should see those on the screen. The first question just simply asks what technology portal you will, or for those of you who had indicated that you're already beginning to use field maps, that you are using, or if you're not currently using or don't have access to using, those are options as well. And then the second question pertains if you would want us to follow up with you on accessing and using ArcGIS field maps, and we'll look back at these responses and get in touch with you.
Antonio, may I add, it's important, for example, the numbers already coming in for the persons who would like us to follow up. It's imperative that they fill out the survey, the evaluation link, because that's where we collect their contact information.
Right.
And so far I'm seeing maybe about 40% have responded with the evaluation. So we ask you to please fill out the evaluation link.
We'll give this a few more seconds. Again, if you do want us to contact you as well, while we will have a listing here from the responses, just to echo what Colin mentioned, please fill out the survey where you can give us your contact information as well. So I hope that you found this session informative, and again, apologies for going just a little bit above the estimated or the allotted time. If you do have any other questions that have not been posed here, of course, you can reach out to us as well. We do have our, of course, our contact information, WhatsApp, as well as if you want to give us a phone call or email. And we're on most social media platforms that you can also reach out to us. On Facebook primarily, and LinkedIn, but we are present on most social media platforms that you can access. But again, I'm very thankful for your presence here, and look forward to communicating more with you in this pertaining to this topic.
Okay, the thank yous are rolling in, Antonio. So I think that's it for the questions. So once again, on behalf of the entire team, thank you for joining us for our first webinar, ArcGIS Field Maps. We look forward to hosting you with more webinars throughout the year. And now my turn to echo on what Antonio said. Follow us on social media, as we also share webinar that Esri does. So it may be industry specific to your industry, and we share all of those, and we want more engagement with you. So that's a great way to do so as well.
Follow, sorry, before closing, I just want to note that we have one last question. If I could just squeeze in a response here, pertains to working with tables. From what we see is that adding data collected to a SQL database that would allow for the creation of custom maps or the manipulation of data by generating graphs and reports. If the field map is tracking a subject over time, is it possible to show the pattern or changes by accessing the database records via timestamps and reflecting it on a map? So field maps can be enabled to keep track of editors, keep track of changes or last edit dates. So it's certainly possible to show the changes or accessing over time. This isn't this isn't particularly related to the location tracking, but within field maps, you can enable, especially because you are working with the SQL database, you can enable be able to version your data and save multiple versions of your data and a historical record of your data set, so you can go back and see the changes that have occurred over time. And work with those changes in kind of that time linear standpoint. But once again, thank you for attending the webinar. And certainly, again, if you have any further questions for us, feel free to pose them or send them to us directly. and we can work to answer. And of course, we will be following up this webinar with resources that have been shared. We will, I guess, at this point, move to close the webinar. Just a quick note too. We will, I think the question was already answered in chat, but we will be hosting the recording of the webinar and intend to have it available to you actually from our website. So you can access this. And this is the first of our webinar series for this year. So we will be announcing soon and having our next webinar in quarter 2 of this year. Thank you once again, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day.